Welcome, everyone. For as long as humanity has existed, we've been absolutely obsessed with this idea of a fountain of youth, right? We've written myths about it, launched massive expeditions to find it, and today we pour billions of dollars into medical and cosmetic research just trying to simulate it. We tend to treat aging as this inevitable, unstoppable march that happens to literally every living thing. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the secret to cheating death doesn't actually lie in some mythical fountain but is already operating right now, hidden away in our oceans and ponds? So in today's Explainer, we are going to look at how nature has actually already solved the puzzle of aging.
I really want you to think about this question for a second. What if aging is just a biological suggestion? We are so incredibly used to the idea that bodies break down. You know the drill. You get older, your joints start to ache, your cells degrade, and eventually, the clock just runs out. We view mortality as a fixed law of physics. But when we look a bit closer at the natural world, we actually start to see that aging isn't a universal rule at all. For some species, it's entirely optional.
Okay, let's dive into this with a number that completely shatters our human perspective on time. 400. Imagine living through the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, the invention of electricity, and the dawn of the internet, all in a single lifetime. That's not science fiction. That is the actual reality for one specific creature swimming in our oceans today. And this mind-boggling number is our entry point into the extreme biological marvels that share our planet.
Section 1. The Quest for Immortality, Defining the Limits of Life. To really understand how any creature could live for centuries, or, possibly forever, we need to begin our quest by distinguishing between simply living a very long time and actually being immortal. And that brings us to this absolutely critical definition: biological immortality. Notice the wording here. It's a state where the rate of mortality from senescence, which, by the way, is just a fancy scientific word for biological aging, is stable or decreasing. This essentially means the organism doesn't age functionally. Now, an animal with biological immortality can definitely still die, right? They can be eaten by a predator, succumb to a disease, or get taken out by environmental changes. But the key here is they do not die simply because their bodies get old and wear out. Their internal clock essentially just stops ticking.
Section 2. Centuries in the Deep. The Greenland Shark.
So let's start our journey with a creature that pushes the absolute boundaries of traditional aging, really setting the stage for true biological immortality. We're heading centuries deep into the freezing, pitch-black waters of the North Atlantic. Now, what's really fascinating to look at here is the sheer scale of this timeline. Just compare our average human lifespan of roughly 80 years to this incredibly slow ticking clock. A Greenland shark is basically a teenager for over a century. Literally, it doesn't even reach sexual maturity, like adulthood, until it's about 150 years old. At 272 years, it's just hitting what we know as a confirmed minimum lifespan. And at the far end, scientists estimate they can live for over 400 years. Think about that. If a Greenland shark were born the exact same year the Mayflower landed in America, it might still be swimming around out there today.
Wild, right?
So how do they actually do it? Well, the mechanism is extreme metabolic slowdown. The Greenland shark lives in incredibly frigid, dark, deep-sea waters. And because it's just so overwhelmingly cold, the shark's heart beats incredibly slowly. Its movements are super sluggish, and its entire cellular metabolism basically operates at a fraction of the speed of warmer water animals. By running their biological engine at an absolute minimum, they just generate fewer cellular errors over time. It's really nature's first strategy to prolong life, just slow everything down to an absolute crawl. But what if, instead of just slowing down, you could constantly rebuild?
Section 3. Masters of Infinite Regeneration, the Hydra and Flatworms. Okay, now we're shifting gears from simply living a long time to creatures that have actually unlocked true biological immortality. We're talking about tiny, simple aquatic organisms that have completely, totally abandoned the concept of growing old. And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference between them and us. See, human aging is characterized by cells that systematically degrade. Every single time our cells divide, these tiny protective caps on our DNA, called telomeres, they get shorter. Eventually, the cells just stop dividing altogether. Errors accumulate, and the body declines. But then, look at the Hydra's regeneration. It features constant, endless cellular renewal without any functional decline whatsoever. A Hydra from 10 years ago is functionally identical to a Hydra born yesterday.
These abilities seriously sound like the description of a comic book superhero's healing factor. Hydras and flatworms have an infinite supply of active stem cells. And stem cells are basically these blank cells that can turn into literally any tissue the body needs. Because they have a totally limitless supply, their bodies are in a state of constant, ongoing regeneration. Get this. You can cut a flatworm into tiny pieces, and each fragment will simply grow a brand new head and a brand new body. No big deal. Imagine if you got a paper cut, and your body regenerated the tissue so flawlessly and so rapidly that the skin was brand new before you even registered the pain. That's how these creatures live forever, by just never letting their bodies hold on to old material.
Section 4. The immortal jellyfish, Pteropsis dornii. But what if an organism gets old, and instead of just replacing parts, it actually hits the rewind button on its entire life? This right here is the absolute climax of our explainer. Scientists actually often refer to this astonishing little creature as a real-life Benjamin Button. I want you to really imagine what it would be like if, at age 80, after a long, full life of wear and tear, your body could just decide it had enough, trigger some biological switch, and physically transform back into an infant to start all over again. No cloning, no offspring, literally you, reverting to babyhood.
Let's trace exactly how this builds, because the life cycle of this creature is completely mind-bending. Step 1, you have the adult medusa, which is a fully grown jellyfish floating around in the ocean. Step 2, something threatens it. This could be cellular stress, starvation, maybe a physical injury, but instead of dying, it drops to the ocean floor and pulls its tentacles inward, becoming this blob-like cyst, which is Step 3. Then, in Step 4, it completely reverts into a polyp, which is basically the infant stage of a jellyfish, attached right there to the seafloor. And finally, in Step 5, that infant polyp buds off into a brand new adult medusa. It literally ages backwards to escape death. And the craziest part, it can do this indefinitely.
So the exact science behind this biological magic trick is a process called transdifferentiation. Normally, right, once a cell in an adult body decides what it wants to be, say it becomes a muscle cell or a nerve cell, it is locked into that role forever. That's it. But during transdifferentiation, a mature, fully specialized cell transforms directly into a completely different specialized cell type. It's kind of like if a highly specialized carpenter suddenly shed all their knowledge, turned back into a generic student, and then immediately graduated as a plumber. The jellyfish breaks down its mature cells and just repurposes them to build a younger version of itself. Absolutely incredible.
Section 5. Unlocking the biological clock. What this means for humanity. So, the crucial point is, we've now seen extreme slowdowns, infinite regeneration, and literal age reversal. We are no longer just looking at nature with basic curiosity, we are looking at it for a blueprint. Because nature hasn't just found one way to conquer aging, it's found at least 3, completely distinct paths. The Greenland shark shows us that extreme metabolic slowdown can extend a single life over 4 centuries. The hydra and flatworms prove that infinite stem cell regeneration can completely prevent functional decline. And the immortal jellyfish demonstrates that transdifferentiation, that cellular reversal we just talked about, can literally turn back the clock. These aren't just fun animal facts, guys. They are active, highly funded areas of intense medical research. Scientists are currently studying these exact mechanisms to see if we can eventually apply things like stem cell renewal or cellular reprogramming to human tissue to cure degenerative diseases.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative thought. Nature has already cured aging. The biological blueprints for immortality already exist, right here in the waters of our own planet. The fountain of youth isn't magic, it's just really complex biology. As we continue to map the genomes and study the cellular tricks of these sharks, flatworms, and jellyfish, we really have to ask ourselves, are we next? Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible journey through the natural world. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.